Welcome back, everyone, to the Property Journey podcast, episode 36. Hello, Roy.
Afternoon, Christopher.
We're starting to get to those times of the year where the nights are starting to get very quickly dark, and we're going to be leaving here in pitch black probably tonight.
Yeah, indeed.
Today's topic of conversation, I want to talk about, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, but cross-border property investment. So by cross-border, I'm going to say that is anyone from the Republic of Ireland, for example, maybe investing in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. Also, anyone from mainland Great Britain investing in Northern Ireland, and then also anyone from Northern Ireland investing in those two areas as well. So what kind of would be the main reasons why people maybe would look elsewhere? For example, I know Northern Ireland is a very unique location because it obviously is in close proximity to those areas. So what kind of would be the reasons why people might look outside of where they're from and maybe look at an area such as Northern Ireland for investment?
Well, first of all, to get the basics out of the way, which is probably a wee bit more complicated than what it should be. So as you'd mentioned there, you've got Northern Ireland, you've got the Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland's part of the United Kingdom and Greater Britain. But whenever it comes into the legal process, it's even more complicated. So you've got your process for the Republic of Ireland, you've got the process for Northern Ireland, you have a conveyancing process for Scotland, and then you have a conveyancing process for England and Wales. So there's different processes, and there's different stamp duty, for instance, involved. So even though they're all different processes, our stamp duty then marries up with England and Wales. So as you can kind of see there, it gets into a bit of a web as to how it's all operated. But to come back to your question, why would people invest, for instance, in Northern Ireland if they're not from here? Number of reasons. I work with investors from the Republic of Ireland, and the main reason why they're coming to Northern Ireland is simply due to the price of property. Like if you look at a property in Dublin, centre Dublin, you're looking at hundreds of thousands. It's probably not far off London prices at the minute. So that means that only the elite or the top investors are able to afford to invest in the likes of Dublin and Cork and Limerick and Galway, the main cities, whereas you can buy property in Northern Ireland outside of Belfast, typical town, for 100,000, 115,000 pounds. That's the same scenario as well. A lot of English people would be coming to Northern Ireland for that reason as well. So quite simply, a lot of people are coming to Northern Ireland because the property prices are that wee bit lower and you've got real good returns.
And I probably want to touch then on what you said there about the legal side of things with solicitors and my understanding then is you don't need a solicitor per se when it comes to England. You can have a qualified conveyancer to do the process for you.
Yes.
Obviously in Northern Ireland it's different because you need a qualified solicitor to carry out the conveyancing process.
Qualified in Northern Ireland, yes.
In Northern Ireland. So isn't that, I'm right in what I'm saying then, someone from Northern Ireland may not be able to then obviously do conveyancing in the jurisdiction of the Republic of Ireland unless they're qualified on it.
The vast majority of solicitors are qualified for the country or the jurisdiction that they're in. Now, there are those solicitors who actually are what's known as dual qualified, and it's normally very common around border towns. So if you're around the likes of Newry or what have you, you're close to the Republic of Ireland as well. So it's very common that a solicitor is dual qualified. So that means they can act in the north and then they can also act in the south as well. There is also the scenario whereby you can get a solicitor who's maybe located in Northern Ireland, but they are qualified in England as well. So that in itself can get very, very complicated. If you probably select some of the real large firms, then they are normally located in each of those jurisdictions. So your options are, if you're banned in that jurisdiction, either go for the large company, or simply do your homework and research and find somebody suitable in, I always say, the town or the area that you're buying in, because they should know the ins and outs of that area and the town, and they're dealing with the property on a day-by-day basis.
Yeah. So there's obviously, as you've mentioned there, a number of reasons why people would obviously invest in, say, for example, Northern Ireland. Obviously, price is one of the big ones. But what would be the potential then risks, for example, that would be unique to, say, for example, investing in a different location? Is it maybe, for example, you're based in one, say, for example, you're based over in England, but you're investing in Northern Ireland, you're not going to have oversight of the property? Is it wee things like that but becomes the risk factor?
Probably the risks, no matter investing in property, there's always the risk, because you don't know what sort of tenant that you're taking on and what difficulties that will entail. But I suppose more the challenges would be you're not particularly close to the property, which in some cases, if it's a hands-off scenario, well, it makes no difference. It's only if you want to be a hands-on investor. Well, understandably, if you live in Northern Ireland and you hold property, down in Cork or, Dublin or what have you, it's quite a journey to go down. It's maybe difficult to get tradespeople or what have you. But understandably, if that's Northern Ireland and that's in the south, you can hop in the car and go down. But if you own property in England and you're located in Northern Ireland, well, it's the best part of a half a day, 3/4 of a day to get to the airport, get on the plane, get over to the property. So it all depends whether you're a hands-on or hands-off investor.
Because then I suppose that boils back down to, if you maybe are thinking about doing it, do you, I don't want to say palm it off, but you understand what I'm saying, that you would maybe give it to the likes of, say, for example, a management company or someone that would be able to manage it. They keep you up to date. You're not hands-on. They're looking after it for you then.
I'm always an advocate for property managers, because you choose a property manager in the area that your property is located. They know what type of tenant you're going to be able to attract. They should know what tenant to basically deflect, and they should know, what are the typical issues, and they should have direct contacts for plumbers and joiners and painters and what have you. So it should make it much more efficient and much more profitable as an investor. And
probably you're right in what you're saying as well. The local knowledge is a big thing, because if you're coming from an area and you maybe don't know a certain area and you're thinking about buying a property within that, a manager or even an expert or something would be able to sort of guide you and go, avoid that area or avoid that type of property because there's damp, or they'll be able to kind of keep you right then with regards to maybe property within that area.
Absolutely, that information's generally completely valuable. If you're working with a property manager to look after your properties and you're looking to get more properties, that's probably your main point of contact to actually get those properties, because they can source out the right ones for you. They know what your plan is, what sort of investment you have, and what your goal is and what you're looking, and then yes, they can get you the right properties. Experience is priceless. Anybody can go onto the internet, search what properties are for sale, and you pick one, and lo and behold, as you say, it could be in an area which is maybe rife with discrimination or paramilitarism or drugs or anything like that at all, and lo and behold, you've just walked yourself into a big problem.
Yeah, and it's, you probably see this as well, because I know obviously a few people from, say, maybe the Dublin area and things like that there. If you were going to, for example, to invest in a property in Dublin, I'm sure you'd be looking at them going, what do you think of this area, or what's your thoughts on kind of this type of property, such as if they were thinking about investing in an area that you would know, it would be a similar back and forth.
Well, that's exactly it. For years, I wouldn't have touched the likes of Dublin because didn't know anything about it, have no contacts, no nothing. But in more recent years, I've built those contacts. I've got one really good contact in Dublin. If I have a client or if I know anybody who's looking to buy there, that's who I hand them over to. And then likewise, if he has any clients looking to buy in Northern Ireland, then they're passed to me. So we're kind of sharing those skill sets, without which he would never have approached or thought of coming to Northern Ireland, and I would never have thought about going to Dublin. Not only the areas, but particularly the difference between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland is basically the tax and the compliance and the regulations are completely different.
And that was funny. The next kind of topic I was going to touch on then is the tax side of things as well. Obviously, with regards to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, it would be completely different. You would essentially be paying tax in two separate countries.
Without getting into it in too much detail, because everybody's tax affairs are completely different, and I'm not able to give any tax advice, but in a general sense, and for the vast majority of people, yes, there can be that double tax scenario, particularly if you're bringing money from the Republic into Northern Ireland. So yes, that can be the case. So you have to be very careful and know what you're doing, because that could wipe out your profits easily. So before you get into anything and do anything, you get the right legal advice and you get the right tax advice.
You're right in what you're saying. Do you not consider maybe even certain elements of that and thinking to yourself, oh no, sure, it's fine, I'm putting this down as maybe investment or income in, under my job essentially, or something like that there, when it's, outside the jurisdiction. It really is all back down to that kind of jurisdiction side of things.
Yeah.
There's obviously then, obviously not if you're Great Britain investing over here, because you're obviously still within the sterling, pound sterling. But obviously in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, there's also then a different in currency.
Yep.
Obviously euros down south and pound sterling up north. What kind of risk can that bring in, in a sudden change of currency changes?
Well, that in itself, even if you're going to buy, and for instance, if you're buying outright, as in with no mortgage, a slight change in the currency rate of even 2 to 3 pence to the euro and vice versa, and you're buying a property, for instance, maybe in the Republic at 5, 6, 7, 800,000 pounds, a couple of pence of a difference can make a big difference on the costs of the property. So it's a matter of being ready to do it, knowing, maybe even keeping an eye on the currency market as well, and then being decisive and being quick.
It's an added factor,
yes,
that you wouldn't have if you were investing from Great Britain into Northern Ireland, or Northern Ireland into Great Britain. You don't have to think about currency factors, but it is something even
if you're tight on the budget as well, again, that could be something that you haven't factored in, and it could end up costing you an extra couple of grand.
Yeah. Because you are right in what you're saying. 1 pence or 2 pence, when you put it into the hundreds of thousands, which you're dealing with in property, is 2, 3, 4 grand, whatever
easily
it happens to be.
Yeah.
Tighten the budget, then there's 2, 3, 4 grand that's very quickly wiped out.
Absolutely.
Similar then, obviously, that would be with regards to income as well. If income's coming in and you're maybe earning 700, say, euro per month for your rent, obviously if you're bringing that money back up north and you're looking to change it back into sterling, for example, it can have an adverse effect then as well.
Absolutely.
How then, for example, if you're considering investment from different areas into Northern Ireland, how would people go about with their research? How would people go about with, maybe understanding it? Is it talk to their legal professions, talk to people within property, get to know kind of where to maybe start or what to consider? Is it that kind of the same side of things, getting into it?
Absolutely. It's all about get a contact who's been recommended to you, or somebody that's been trustworthy, because if you searched or Google, you might find somebody, but at the end of the day, if you're handing over a lot of money, you want to know that everything's right and that you're getting the right sort of property. So I think the best way to look at it is it's no different. I appreciate if you're from Northern Ireland and you're going to invest in the Republic of Ireland, well, you're maybe only an hour or two travel wise, maybe less. But it's a similar concept to if you were going to buy in Turkey, if you're going to buy in Spain. It's everything's completely different. You have no contacts, you don't know anybody, so you need to do the same sort of research. And normally the best way is you find somebody who's been there and done that before, go on their recommendation, and then simply follow that, as well as doing your own due diligence as well. But it's the first starting point.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, and I just want to reflect back on it, stamp duty. Obviously, there's certain rates for, depending on what your circumstances are, depending on, do you earn or own property, stuff like that there. Is there different rates for, would it be international maybe investors that you would consider? Is there different rates maybe between, mainland investing in Northern Ireland? Is there all these different considerations when it comes to stamp duty as well?
Well, there's different ways of looking at it, but let's say, for instance, somebody from outside of Northern Ireland and they were buying in Northern Ireland. So if they were from England and Wales, it's the same concept as if they lived here. Scotland is a different concept, and then the Republic is a different concept. Then throw into the mix if they're outside of that, so if they're international and they maybe don't have a national insurance number and they own other property, then yes, there's higher stamp duty. So it can get very, very complicated. So you want to make sure you've done all your homework, done all your research before maybe you agree a house, because that more than likely doesn't rear its head until probably a day or two, maybe even before you get the keys. And at that point, you could be left with a very, very big bill that you weren't expecting.
Yeah. As you say there, that's only going to come up probably very, very close to completion. And if you haven't understood that and knowing what the figures are, you might be taking out another mortgage just to cover it. Right. The other side of things then is obviously there's the different types of investment. And by that I mean there's the bog standard buy to let. You're going in, you're looking for a long-term rental, you're looking for a tenant maybe to stay there for a year or 2 years. For some people they're looking at a tenant to stay there for 10 years, they're happy enough. Where then investors is it back to personal choice as to what they're deciding the property that they're buying, even though they're outside of the jurisdiction? For example, do they focus on long-term rentals? Do they focus on maybe commercial? Do they focus on maybe, short-term sort of holiday lets? Is it back to preference?
It's completely back to preference. It makes no difference. It just, whatever they want, that's simply, they just buy the property to suit their budget, suit their goal, and suit the desired, hopefully the return that they'll get from it.
I suppose back to it then is maybe where they're based. For example, if you're getting a short-term rental that's maybe got a high turnover rate of people staying in that area, do you want the hassle of that? Can you cope with the hassle of that? Are you going to be bringing someone on board that's solely going to manage that all for you? Is these all the considerations that you do beforehand?
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same. For instance, whether are you going to do Airbnb, buy property for Airbnb? It's the same as if you live 3 hours from it, even within Northern Ireland compared to the Republic of Ireland. You still have that logistics of it. So are you able to do that yourself? Can you afford that time for the travel and what have you? Or do you bring in a company for doing it all? So it's a matter of whatever, basically personal preference.
I think that's kind of all the questions I had on that, Roy. I don't want to delve too deep into it because, as you've already mentioned, it can be quite complex. I suppose it can be as complex as the way that you want to make it. It would be what I would say. But what would kind of your final thoughts be on kind of that cross-border property investment, and I'm talking the whole area, mainland coming in and from the south as well?
I'm probably going to answer basically being as an advocate for our own market here. And if it's something whereby, and we do have quite a few listeners who are based on the mainland, don't be afraid to invest here. And if that's something that you want to have a chat about or you want to look into it, certainly get in touch with me. Likewise, if you're based in the Republic of Ireland and you're maybe thinking to yourself, the market's very expensive down there, you would like to invest and it's a wee bit more affordable here, certainly again, get in touch and we'll happily we'll find you something.
We'll wrap that up there then, Roy. Thank you very much. A nice wee short episode.
Thank
It's
you.
just the way that I wanted it today. But good to the point. Plenty of thinking there, as Roy's mentioned, for many of our listeners over in the mainland and also from the south of Ireland as well. Hopefully that maybe jogs a wee bit of the mind there and maybe gets you thinking and thinking about maybe investing in Northern Ireland. So episode 36, folks, thank you very much all for everyone for listening, and we'll be back with the next episode soon.
Thank you.